Good evening. Welcome to the Canby City Council regular meeting for February 19th, 2014. If you will please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Stay standing for a moment of silence, please. Great. Thank you. First on the agenda this evening is the proclamation for the Iwo Jima Remembrance Day. So whereas on February 23rd, 1945, this country's armed forces were engaged in one of the most strategic and bloodiest battles of World War II, the Battle for Iwo Jima. And whereas the Canby Aurora Veterans of Foreign Wars Post and Auxiliary 6057 of the United States have deemed it fitting to erect a flagpole at the Canby Adult Center in remembrance of those who took part in this great battle. And whereas each year the members of the Canby Aurora Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 6057, their auxiliary, and their fellow veterans organizations and service organizations, i.e. Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Campfire, etc., conduct a ceremony to rededicate this memorial and replace the flags on the flagpole. And whereas the flagpole located at the Canby Adult Center is the only memorial in the city of Canby dedicated to our veterans who made such significant personal sacrifices during World War II in defense of this great nation, and whereas this year will be the 19th anniversary of the annual flag-raising ceremony. Now, therefore, I, Brian Hodson, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Canby, do hereby proclaim February 22nd, 2014 as Iwo Jima Remembrance Day, and call upon all individuals, schools, churches, organizations, and business establishments in the city of Canby to proudly remember the sacrifices made by servicemen and women who fought so gallantly in this bloody and decisive battle. I further call upon all members of this community to join in commemorating this great event with the rededication of the flagpole at the Adult Center on February 22nd at 10 a.m. to celebrate the 69th anniversary of the end of World War II. Given under my hand this 19th day of February 2014 in the city of Canby, Oregon. We have several people here this evening.
And thank you, Mayor Hodson.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And tonight we have two veterans of the Iwo Jima battle.
We've met before.
Howard Thomas and Louis Bossel. And this is to be presented to Louis Bossel. And he will accept this on behalf of the Veteran of Foreign Wars Post 6057 and those he served with at Iwo Jima. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Now I would like to introduce Irene and Carol with the Veteran of Foreign Wars Ladies Auxiliary.
We'd like to invite you all to come on the 22nd Saturday for our ceremony.
This is Carol Horn. She's our auxiliary member, and she's passing out an invitation, as she mentioned before, to the Iwo Jima flag raising ceremony this Saturday at 10 o'clock at the Canby Adult Center. And it'd be our privilege again for you to join us. This is our 19th year, but it's the 69th anniversary of World War II, the Iwo Jima. And our town here in Canby, in 1995, became a commemorative community when we had the 50th anniversary of the end of World War II. So we're really proud and honored to say we're going to make 70 years next year for the Iwo Jima flag raising. It'll be our 20th, but it'll be the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II and of Iwo Jima. And I've already heard that there are many veterans that are going to attend Iwo Jima ceremonies on Iwo Jima. So that would be really exciting. If you know of any Iwo Jima veterans that are here, we would love to meet them and take their pictures, to have pictures of them when they were in service and pictures of them now, so we can honor them next year on the 70th anniversary. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Hope that everyone, TV land there, can find some time to come down and celebrate on Saturday for this. It's a very well-attended event, and so thank you all very much for coming. Appreciate it. Before we get into communications, a couple of agenda item changes. The presentation by Portland Police Captain John Brooks on the Reg Gin project has been postponed. So we'll be doing a work session. Some questions came up from the council regarding this topic, so we will do a work session for the first Wednesday in March. I'm sorry, March 19th is when we're doing it. Thank you. The other item is under the consent agenda, item D, the appointments to Municipal Audit and Financial Oversight Committee. We are going to postpone those. We've had some additional interest come up, so we're going to vet those and look at setting up interviews post haste so that we can meet our deadlines as laid out by our finance director. Emphatically. If you go to, so that means under resolutions and ordinances, item C will be removed, and then under new business, we'll postpone that as well to a later date. Okay? Moving into communications.
I have none, Mayor.
All right. No communications. Our first opportunity for citizen input and community announcements. Bob, our resident community member this evening? No? Great. We'll move into mayor's business. A couple things I want to say, since we have Lieutenant Tro here, just a thank you to Canby PD and our detectives and the joint task force from the county on their incredible efforts this weekend in investigation and arrests that were made in the incident this weekend. So we really thank you and those agencies for incredible and very quick police work to get this situation resolved. So thank you.
Long hours, short sleep.
Lots of long hours, so thank you very much. Thank you.
Much appreciated.
This week, Canby will have said goodbye to two very long-standing and impactful people from our community. On Monday, we said, should say see you later to Wayne Oliver, and tomorrow will be Tom Olson. Both celebrations of life this week. Tom's will be tomorrow. Both men have left their mark on our community from their professional careers and civic volunteer efforts through their ability to love life the way that they did. Mr. Oliver did this with baseball, and Mr. Olson did this with literature. Both men will be very much missed, and their impact will be long-lasting in our community. So we wish their families all the best at this tough time. Moving on with some good news, our city manager will be moving on.
Good news for him.
Yes.
Thank you.
So Greg is, our city manager is moving on. Greg will be taking a position. He has been called up to the big leagues from, by the governor, and will be filling in some big shoes there and doing good things for us at a state level. So we're sad to see you go. We knew at the end of the year we would probably be losing you, but this is much sooner than I think we anticipated. So do you want to address what you'll be doing in your new role?
Sure, and I want to make perfectly clear that the governor does not know my name. I'm working for somebody that works for the governor, will be, so I don't want to make it any bigger than it is, but will be what they call a Community Solution, Regional Solutions Coordinator, and that comes from an executive order by Governor Kitzhaber, created Oregon Solutions, and he put the state into 11 regions, and I will be responsible for Marion, Polk, and Yamhill County. And that's where I will be working on economic and community development, working with state agency team to do projects of importance to those areas to try to get them to fruition. So I'm excited. I'm sad to leave, obviously. I've had a great time here, and but as you know, you've got people to keep you under control, and Kim and Haley and Amanda, so I think, you got a great bunch of employees here, as you well know.
We do.
At all levels. So I'm sad to be going. It's a great bunch of people. I've enjoyed this, and thank you for the opportunity to serve Canby.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Your last official day will be March 3rd.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank
And
you for your service to us.
Thank you, and I guess everybody knows this is my last meeting.
Yes,
So
this is your last meeting.
I plan on coming and maybe giving raspberries, but other than that,
That would be I
Thank you
feel
very
coming
much.
on for that evening. No. Well, we thank you for that.
Thank
For
you.
your service, and it's been, we'll save your own roasting at your, on the 3rd. So with that said, I would like to, through consensus, appoint Amanda Zyber, our assistant city manager, as our interim city manager until we find a suitable replacement for Greg, however long that may be. So I just need a nod that we're,
I think that's a reasonable thing to do.
okay. So to let you all know, I've asked Greg and Amanda on Monday to start talking about that transition and determine what additional workload is going to be on Amanda, and if there's going to be any staffing pieces that we need to move around, or what that might look like. So I suspect that they'll come with recommendations or whatever they need to do to make sure that with Amanda coming, now doing a city manager search, her already pretty big workload, and then some contract negotiation pieces coming up as well. Her workload could be pretty great, so we'll need to figure out, and I know that Greg and Kim and Haley and everybody else will rally to support her, and but as will we, but just whatever additional pieces we need to look at, then we need to make sure we do that. For us, the first meeting in March, we will have a work session, starting probably around 6 to go over what the recruitment process will look like. Amanda will have that ready to go for us, and we'll make sure we get that in the works and get going on that. I suspect the process to probably take 6 months at least to find, to do an adequate job, and want to incorporate as much staff input as well as our input to what we want to look for and try to accomplish with filling Greg's position, but not his shoes necessarily. So,
Thank you.
so thank you. A couple other items. Spoke with this Kim, our city recorder, about the ballot measure, which we're going to be, I think, putting the finishing touches on this evening, but had dialogue about us as a council putting in a written statement about it, and we've got word back, Kim and Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, that we cannot, we can, but it has to be strictly factual, and if it costs, no, I'm getting the head no. Go ahead.
You guys can advocate for it. City employees can't, and
Okay.
city funds cannot be used to advocate.
Okay, so if we were to draft a letter and submit it, the city fund, we couldn't pay for it from city funds, so we would have to,
An argument in favor is, I think, isn't it like a $400 fee?
Three or four, yeah.
so, something to think about, if that's something we want to think about doing, then we would need to figure out.
Interested in that estimate.
Okay, if we're interested in doing that, then I would look to you, Counselor Parker, for tapping your professional skill set in the past as a reporter to maybe help draft the framework for that.
Get something out this week.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing you might want to also keep in mind is the whole campaign finance. So you would need to check into that too, because there's a threshold for that if it's spent.
I'll work with you on that one, Kim.
Thank you both. So I think our last meeting, we had a issue brought to us by Dr. Perman and Mr. Morgan about potential some park issues and some logging trail access issues. So Greg and I did meet and have some conversation about that. Two possible pieces or solution items. One that we brought up that evening was property annexation that's going to be up for voter approval probably in November. There's a section of that development that would be a park abutting the logging bridge road with parking. So that could be a solution piece. The other piece that we discussed was there is a park located on southeast Teakwood, and possibly looking at that as being maybe created in an interim as a parking situation. Of course, we'd have to go through all the proper code pieces to turn that into, but that could also be a possibility, as well as many of you know, there's a number of soccer tournaments and whatnot that occur there, and there's a lot of neighborhood overflow from Baker Prairie, so that was also an option that was brought up, and I think we can, look at it and see what Matilda's thoughts are on that for the time being. So that is all that I have right now, and we'll start with Councilor Rocha on councilor comments and reports.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Parks and Rec. They've done a good job of breaking down their budget into 3 phases. So they've moving forward with phase 1, and that will include entry gates, fencing, 2 shelters with windscreens, benches, doggy waste stations, a porta potty, some seating, bike rack, and they'll work on phase 2, which will include the 4-inch wood fiber, some dog rent station, drinking fountains, etc. But they are moving forward with phase 1, and the price is substantially less than they originally talked, so they were all pretty happy about that. On the Canby Adult Center, they're getting ready for their Spring Bazaar, April 26th. They're looking at doing a small remodel in their kitchen, adding some walk-in coolers, and then potentially in the future doing actually a full remodel of their facility. And on Canby Friday, nothing new, except they're still working on Chief Coons' replacement. And that's all I have.
Great. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Councilor Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a very short report as my liaison committee assignments were canceled and postponed due to snow. But I do want to kind of give a shout out to the businesses that did participate in First Friday, even though we were all snowy, giving those of us who did want to brave the weather to get out of our cabin fever and get out a little bit. So we took the fam down to Pittman River for some dessert and got out. So I just wanted to thank the businesses that decided to keep their doors open and let us wanderers have a place to go. That's all I have, since I have a school board meeting tomorrow, so I'll have more next time.
Great. Thank you.
Well, I'd just like to first thank Greg for leaving this city of Canby better than you found it, and appreciate all your great contributions. And first met Greg in the Ford leadership class, and just really appreciate the impact you've had on our community, and you're just a great fellow, and want to wish you tremendous success in the future.
Thank you.
Liaison comments. I attended my first neighborhood association meeting this past Thursday for the Northeast Neighborhood Association, held in a clubhouse just off of Territorial on the Greens condos. I was well attended, probably 15 to 20 people. Had a presentation about a proposed annexation on Pine Street, approximately 4.5 acres, that if approved would be the site of approximately 18 single-family homes seeking R1 approval, approximately 7,500 to 8,000 square foot lots. The homeowners in attendance asked a lot of questions. Their main concern was that the annexation, if approved, would not be changed to R2 multifamily housing apartments. I believe that if they can gain some assurance from our planning department that the development would be R1 and not R2, the neighborhood seemed receptive to this development. And I told them I'd speak to our planning director, Brian Brown, which I did today, and he assured me that unless this council really put up a fuss, that would stay R1. The association celebrated the 10 years that Leonard Walker has served as a chairman of the Neighborhood Association. Leonard's volunteer efforts have been much appreciated. He stated he would not be seeking re-election, and Dan Leichner was appointed chairman of the Northeast Association. Both Dan and Leonard are both active on the Traffic Safety Commission, as well are both great guys, and our community is a better place because of their volunteer efforts. I also attended the traffic safety meeting this past Friday, and thank you, Councilor Hensley, and thank you, Councilor Dale, for your attendance, as well as our City Manager Greg Ellis. We had approximately 15 people in attendance, and Jerry Nelzine always does a great job. He from Public Works, he's there every time, and we had a presentation from the Tofty Farms neighborhood over some traffic safety concerns, discussion of safety measures being looked at and scheduled to be implemented. And I'd just like to report that the Traffic Safety Commission is alive and well and is committed to doing our part to help keep our community a safe place for our citizens while walking, biking, driving in and around Canby. I'd also like to say deeply saddened by the loss of Wayne Oliver and Tom Olson, both tremendous citizens, and our community is a better place because of them. They'll be dearly missed. And I'd just also like to say how proud I am of our Canby Police Force. They do an outstanding job and just really appreciate it. And my wife and I are away RVing, and I'd like to thank the mayor for doing a tremendous job updating us on the situation. That's all I have.
Appreciate that.
Mr. Mayor, I actually have a question I thought of when he brought up the Ford Family Foundation.
Yes.
And I just have a question for Greg. Are you going to still be, in your role with RDI, will you still be involved in the Canby program going forward?
Yes.
Okay, so we will see you still.
Yep, I in fact got an email from Amy today, or yesterday, talking about that and encouraging us to make sure we get people for the program, so,
Okay.
yep.
So you'll still be haunting us with that?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay, fair enough, thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for indulging me, Mr. Mayor.
No problem. Council President Dale.
Mr. Mayor likewise attended Wayne Oliver's memorial service. Amazing service to see somewhere around 800 or 900 people, all to honor a man. Oliver name is just one of those names. It's been around since I was a child here in Canby, and a real pillar. It's kind of one of those family names. It's a bedrock for your city. And our hearts and prayers are with the Oliver family. Likewise, attended the Traffic Safety Committee, mostly to hear about discussion on traffic and safety improvements that have a nexus with the Sequoia Bridge project there on 13. And on the Canby utility front, they are anticipating a water rate increase of about $0.10 a day is what it'll work out to be. That was already planned for and covered in last year's rate hearing, but just letting folks know it's coming. It's not based on volume, it'll be on the base charge. So feel free to wash cars, have sprinklers for the kids, whatever. The rate increase is on the base. It's only $0.10. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Parker.
Nothing new this week, thanks.
Okay. Councilor Rutter.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to report that at our last CAT board meeting, the staff was introduced to our new buses that we received and got to take a tour of Canby out through Aurora by the airport and back around 8 o'clock at night, so really didn't get to see a lot, but really got to enjoy the ride, which is very luxurious, and they showed us all the different features and capabilities. So we got on 2 new buses and then a minivan. And I think tomorrow night we're going to get to ride in the minivan. I don't think all of us are going to be able to get in at the same time, but it'll be fun. And Ms. Whaling discussed a state of Oregon and also a federal compliance review for CAT, which resulted in 13 findings and 5 advisories. And she said that those standard issues and were easily rectified. They were. So we also discussed the need to inform citizens who have hardships that they can fill out an application form and turn it in at the CAT office in order to get assistance for their fare relief. So we'd like to encourage our citizens that have these have physical issues to be able to take advantage of this. Secondly, in the Planning Commission board, at the last meeting, elected John Savory as a vice chair for that, so we want to congratulate him on accepting that responsibility. Brian Brown planning director brought the commissioners up to date on the need for some clarification for the city code pertaining to landscaping and with the new construction, specifically the new commercial construction. The commissioners asked Mr. Brown to formulate a revision of the building code as to whether or not we need to require all new buildings, especially in the commercial zone, to have a minimum of 2 stories, or do they want to remain with 1? So that'll be coming up for future consideration. So that's all I have.
Great. Thank you, sir. Great reports. Thank you, everyone. Moving to the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt the minutes of the February 5th, 2014 City Council regular meeting, the annual liquor license renewals, and reappointment of Walt Daniels to the Transit Advisory Committee with a term to end on March 31st, 2017.
Second.
Motion's been made by Council President Gale, second by Councilor Hensley, to approve the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the February 5th, 2014 City Council regular meeting, annual liquor license renewals, and reappointment of Walt Daniels to the Transit Advisory Committee with a term to end on March 31st, 2017. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 6-0. Thank you all. Moving into resolutions and ordinances.
The first item we have is Resolution 1181. This is authorizing and directing the city recorder to certify to the Clackamas County Clerk the measures submitting to the electorate for the May 20th, 2014 election, a civic center measure plus explanatory statement.
Just for those of you at home, again, this is to do with the language around the resolution, the affirmative vote that we're doing on regarding the civic building. So we'll be on the May ballot. Any additional comments or thoughts that want to be said?
We need a motion before we can discuss. So I,
We do.
Mr. Mayor, will move that we adopt Resolution 1181, a resolution authorizing and directing the city recorder to certify to the Clackamas County Clerk a measure submitting to the electorate for the May 2014 election, a civic center measure plus explanatory statement.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Hensley, seconded in dual form by Council President
Mr. Parker.
Dale and Councilor Parker
Dueling settings.
to approve resolution number 1181, a resolution authorizing and directing the city recorder to certify the Clackamas County Clerk a measure submitting to the electorate for the May 20th, 2014 election, a civic center measure plus an explanatory statement. All those in favor?
Aye.
Would be discussion.
Sorry, was there a discussion called? I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to say to those skeptics out there that this is a very fair and accurate description. We still have a few folks out there that are skeptical, but there are no games being played, and I have to compliment Ken and Tracy. You guys really did the heavy lifting on this with the language and sweated the details to make sure that a yes vote means yes, that there's no hidden agenda, and that this is a very clean language that's going out to the voters. So I heartily endorse this, and I thank my fellow councilors for their sincere efforts to ask a nice, clean question of voters.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
And Mr. Mayor, too, I'd just like to commend all the councilors and you, the mayor, and our city attorney and city manager. I think we all worked hard on this and worked well together, and I think this will have a happy ending.
I'm confident it will as well. I'm excited for it for this to come to fruition. So thank you all for the hard work, continued work. Hopefully it's just the beginning to the work that we need to put into it. So the motion is on the table, and so all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Seeing none, passes 6-0.
The next item we have is Resolution 1182. This is adopting a supplemental budget for the 2013-2014 fiscal year, and our Finance Director, Haley Fish, is here to present this item.
So we just had a work session on the mid-year update, and this resolution is basically cleaning up some administrative stuff to keep us on track. So within the general fund, we don't have to dip into contingency at all, as our cash carryover was higher than what we had budgeted. So that is where we're offsetting these changes from. The administrative materials services is for some timing differences between some contracted services expected last year that ended up going into the current fiscal year, and to fund some iPads for the council so that we can move into the electronic age if they so choose to.
How soon can we expect that?
So you know how to
As
use
soon as someone wants to go to Apple, I suppose. Well, or whoever, whatever tablet maker you would like. Now you know my preference. Personal services is, the change in administration is due to some different benefit elections. The capital reduction has to do with the PEG funds, and the projected ending balance was lower than expected due to a reimbursement made at the end of last fiscal year. So we're adjusting that down to actual so that they have a better understanding of how much is available. Some other administrative things, personal services in court, we've had some turnover and benefit elections changed. Parks, the materials and service increase is for some retrofitting of some equipment that was not expected. And benefits elections change as far as personal services goes. The police, it's just a transfer between categories for one of their programs, and the cemetery would like to purchase a fireproof cabinet because there are some records that are kept on site at the cemetery that need to be protected. Moving on to the library fund, the cash carryover increases an increase due to donations that were received prior to year-end and not anticipated, and a grant received in the current year. The changes in the contingency, so this is actually increasing the contingency and eliminating the transfer, because as the Library Civic Center project has been delayed, those transfers to the URF fund are not expected in the current year, and it's adjusting to the actual balance available after some refunds due to the elimination of the previous project. And that's what the materials and service increase is. It was those refunds. So the fleet services is a timing difference in a project that was budgeted in prior year, but then not completed until the current year. The transit fund, I'm actually going to read. We're doing a transfer between the contract services and personal services as a result of analyzing the functions performed by the transit director who has been contracted currently, and we've determined that the structure of the relationship is more consistent with an employee based on the rules set by the IRS. So we are, this would allow us to contract with her as a temporary employee until an actual recruitment can be done. The swim center, minor changes related to maintenance and utilities, and the sewer combined fund is related to timing differences of things being budgeted in prior year and not occurring until the current year.
Right.
Those are the outline of the changes in here. Any questions?
I have none. Comment here, Councilor Parker.
Two of them. Haley, you mentioned change in adjustment to something called a PEG, an acronym there. What's that mean?
Gracious. Does the attorney know? I don't know the
Is it
term offhand.
relates to
It's in our,
telecommunications?
yeah, it's related to telecommunications capital funds.
Okay.
What they actually stand for, I'd have to look up.
It's public education and government.
All right.
There you go.
Want to make sure we all understand that. The other one, and I didn't get the backstory on this, but the $2,500 donation to the swim center, was that a publicly announced? Do we know what that was for? It was for a specific item?
Yeah,
I just
I believe
thought
it
it
was
was-
for a specific item in the pool.
Thought it was generous, and I hadn't heard about it until I read your report, so. Some people wonder how we operate the city. Sometimes we do it because generous people give us money, in this case, $2,500, and I'd like to
says for a
find out what that
specific
was. And if it wasn't anonymous, to send them a thank you note.
I think that'd be a great idea.
I can pass that on to the swim center director.
Thanks.
It appears as Greg is jotting that down as well.
I'm curious, too.
Any other questions or comments?
I'd just like to say Haley's doing a great job, and we're lucky to have you.
Thank you.
I concur.
Very much so.
Very much so.
Great. No further questions, and I will take a motion to accept the,
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt Resolution 1182, adopting supplemental budget for the 2013-2014 fiscal year.
thank you, sir. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Motion has been made by Counselor Ryder and seconded by Counselor Rocha to approve Resolution 1182, adopting supplemental budget for the 2013-2014 fiscal year. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 6-0.
Okay, the next item was Resolution 1183, and this has been moved to the March 19th meeting. Moving on, we have Resolution 1184. This is appropriating unanticipated funds received for specific purpose for the 2013-2014 fiscal year.
Hello again.
Hello there.
So within budget law, there's exceptions to be able to appropriate through resolution funds such as grants and other unanticipated revenues for appropriation so that we can use them once we receive them. The forfeiture fund, you're not allowed to predict that people will forfeit property, but we did receive $36,000 in federal forfeiture funds in January, and the police department has a plan to use those funds on a undercover police car, so we would like to appropriate those through this resolution.
I think that's excellent. Any questions?
So this means crime doesn't pay?
It pays for the city.
Pays for the city.
and Comes in handy when our police officers are doing good detective work.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to move that we adopt Resolution 1184, a resolution appropriating unanticipated funds received for a specific purpose for the 2013-2014 fiscal year.
I'll second. Motion's been made by Counselor Hensley and seconded by Counselor Coleman to approve Resolution 1184, appropriating unanticipated funds received for a specific purpose for the 2013-2014 fiscal year. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 6-0.
Okay, the next item we have is Ordinance 1394. This is establishing a retirement and separation payroll reserve.
Would you like to just
Committing it
stay?
to be used to fund payouts of vacation, sick, comp, and holiday accruals and corresponding employer liabilities made in accordance with benefit agreements at the time of retirement or separation from the city.
So, the city has approximately 11 employees who are eligible to retire and 13 employees who are eligible for early retirement. And according to our negotiated benefit plans, that allows them to be able to get paid out half of their sick leave up to 500 hours. And then you would also, anyone who left the city or separated from the city is allowed to get paid out their vacation that has accrued to date. So that, upon analyzing that, the liability outstanding, it is an outstanding liability if these people retire or separate. So is upwards of $700,000. And individual payouts range from very little to 45 plus. And an individual department getting hit with that unexpectedly, as we can't predict when people will separate or retire, can put a large strain on these departments. So there have been some practice to fund some of these out of the general fund contingency. But as the general contingency is only about $500,000, that puts an undue strain on the general fund. And as all these departments range through all departments and employees throughout all departments can earn these benefits, it would make sense to start a way to fund these through this reserve. And so we actually had budgeted in the current year budget a 15% increase in healthcare, and only actually got a 9.9% increase, which creates a variance of approximately $68,000, which I'm proposing to use to establish this reserve and in the current year. And then going forward, I propose that we fund it with 2 to 4% of personal services, which is less than if they were to get hit with a $40,000, any department to get hit with that type of one-time charge at any moment. So this is one way that each department can contribute to this and then not have to worry about these as they come up. And we will make sure that we have liquidity within the general fund.
Questions for Haley on this one? I think as we look ahead to, as you said, it would be a very big impact with any retirement, but if we're looking at the numbers we talked about earlier in our work session, that's 25% of our workforce and staff is eligible for retirement. So if everybody decided to go at the same time, it would be a tremendous impact to the general fund to meet those obligations.
Or the other funds if they had to fund it themselves.
So my question, looking at the 2 to 4%, what indicators will dictate how we fall within that range?
I picked that range because I did projections based on those percentages of the general fund and how long it would take to fund it up to the 90%. And it would take 3 to 6 years to do that through the 2 to 4%, and so you can, that would be set through the budget process.
Okay. And there. Great. Thank you, Haley.
Thank
We'll take a motion on accepting ordinance 1394.
Mr. Mayor, I move for ordinance number 1394, an ordinance establishing a retirement and separation payout reserve and committing it to be used to fund payouts of vacation, sick, comp, and holiday accruals and corresponding employer liabilities made in accordance with benefit agreements at the time of retirement or separation from the city, and declaring an emergency.
Great, thank you, sir.
Second.
Motion's been made by Council President Dale and seconded by Councilor Hensley to approve ordinance number 1394, an ordinance establishing a retirement and separation payout reserve and committing it to be used to fund payouts of vacation, sick, comp, and holiday accruals and corresponding employer liabilities made in accordance with benefit agreements at the time of retirement or separation from the city, and declaring an emergency. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 6-0. Thank you.
Okay, the next one we have is ordinance 1395. This is amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 12.28, regarding the city cemetery. And this is just a housekeeping ordinance. The current code language was written probably 20 years ago when Public Works was actually in charge of the cemetery. So it's just making it current with what we do day to day.
Thank you, Kim. A motion there?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt ordinance number 1395, an ordinance amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 12.28, regarding the city cemetery.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second that.
Motion has been made by Councilor Rocha, seconded by Councilor Coleman, to approve ordinance 1395, amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 12.28, regarding the city cemetery. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes 6-0.
Okay, the next item we have is ordinance 1396. This is amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 5.04.190 regarding business license exemptions. And I'll just go ahead and present this and then turn it over to the city attorney. The administration staff is responsible for issuing business licenses, and we just wanted some language cleanup with exemptions, and the city attorney also had some language he wanted to change, so.
Well, and primarily the only additional thing besides going with current suggested practices would be the making sure that all businesses or any person who carries on or engages in a business isn't carrying on an illegal business. And so, and that may sound almost duplicative from what the law is, because we don't, go up and give business licenses to, say, people who steal and fence stuff or whatever. But or drug dealers, we don't say, hey, get your business license and sanction your behavior. And so this was just an attempt to make sure that we're codifying what we all know to be true, which is our businesses can't be illegal businesses. They have to follow local, state, and federal rules.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions or comments?
Sounds like good policy.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, I move for ordinance number 1396, an ordinance amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 5.04.190 regarding business license exemptions in the city of Canby.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second.
Motion made by Council President Dale, seconded by Councilor Rocha, to accept ordinance 1396, ordinance amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 5.04.190 regarding business license exemptions in the city of Canby. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 6-0. Thank you, Kim. The new business item that's there has been put on hiatus temporarily, so we'll move into city administrator business and staff reports.
It's 18 minutes after 8 o'clock in the city of Canby, and all is well. And life is good.
That's a great report.
Thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
suspect my son will want a cookie, Dave, before you go.
That's anytime. I'm always up for cookies.
Yeah, you better load up, I think.
His favorite cookie buddy.
Second opportunity for citizen input at this point. Bob is shaking his head no, and I suspect no one from home is running in. Action review.
You have adopted resolution, you've approved the consent agenda. You've accepted you've adopted resolution 1181, 1182, and 1184. You've approved ordinance 1394, 1395, and 1396 to come up for second reading on March 5th, 2014.
Perfect. Thank you, Kim. We have no executive session this evening, Joe?
We do not.
Excellent. I will take a motion to adjourn. Thank you. A second?
Second.
Moved by Councilor Ryder and seconded by Councilor Rocha to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone want to stay?
Sure.
See you one. 5-1, we're out. Good night, Candy.
I had
Thank
to
you.
do it to you, Greg.